there's no way that the three top leaders of Hamas are worth $11 billion collectively. I thought, okay, well, even if it take a tenth of that, and you think about these guys running Hamas, which supposedly, I mean, they've been governing since 2007, 2006, supposedly for the benefit of the Palestinian people, and they're sitting on billions of dollars, and you think, and so that's why, fuck Hamas, and I understand the Israeli perspective, which is we can't allow them to retain control. I get that, right? I understand that operational perspective, right? The problem is that you're not going to win the narrative. You're not going to win what's happening on the international stage. And sometimes the Israeli government can act like they don't understand how public relations plays out, right? I mean, this like, look at the past couple of days, what's happened. So Hamas wasn't going to accept the ceasefire. Hamas has turned down opportunities for a ceasefire, right? They just, and then they say, okay, the other day, 48 hours ago, whatever, they said, we're going to walk away from the negotiating table. Fuck that, right? Knowing that Israel is ready to do some, limited operations in Rafah. So, because they're not stupid. They've got a very good intelligence network, right? And they've got a lot of, and so they understand what Israel's about to do, right? They say, we're walking away from the negotiating table. Israel says, okay, fine. Everybody, evacuate eastern Rafah. We're going to engage in some targeted strikes against Hamas targets that we've identified. Hamas turns around shortly thereafter and says, we accept a peace proposal, a ceasefire proposal from Egypt and Qatar, right? So look at us. We're accepting a ceasefire proposal. And Israel's moving on Rafah, right? That's on one hand, that's a brilliant communication strategy, right? Now you've won the day on the international stage, and exactly what they knew would happen. Just like what they knew would happen after the 7 October strikes, they knew what was going to happen. They knew that civilians were going to die, right? They understood that. And again, everybody's got their own opinion. Minus Hamas doesn't give a shit about dead Palestinians. In fact, that's their currency. That's how they work the game. And so they understood what was going to happen. Israel was in a bind. They got to respond. They're in an urban environment. It is fucked up, right? And too many people have died, right? I don't necessarily believe the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry in terms of their statistics, and also they don't separate out how many combatants were killed, right? They're just like, 34,000 people have died. So people imagine, oh my God, 34,000 civilians. Well, thousands and thousands of those people are fighters, or Hamas fighters, right? Again, it's horrible. I'm not saying it's not. It's awful, right? And both sides are problematic here. But what I am saying is Hamas has a much better communications, public relations operation. So they knew what Israel was about to do. They claim, we accept the ceasefire. The ceasefire was completely different from what had been presented, by Israel and to Israel, right? Just during the past 48 hours. And they say, no, this thing is not what we've been talking about. We don't accept it. So now they've moved in on Rafah, and they've lost yet again the narrative on the world stage. So now they're the ones who are causing problems. Anyway, so it's kind of fun. But again, the point is also when all that money's sloshing around, of course you're going to have people who are benefiting from it. And in this case, it's people like Hanye, who can sit in Qatar, with all that money. And what are they worried about? They're worried about losing a revenue stream, right? They know that if Hamas is destroyed, you think Iran's going to continue giving them $250 million a year, or Qatar's going to allow them to live this lavish lifestyle and give them money, or they're going to continue to be able to, extract taxes from money coming in or from goods coming into Gaza, or put tariffs on things coming in, to the tunnels, the contraband? No. So in part, it never changes, right? Where there's situations like this, whether it's whether it's Ukraine or wherever, you're gonna get this, right? You're gonna get this level of corruption, and so I'm not surprised at all when people are worried about or concerned about what's going on with Ukraine, and we give them another $61 billion, and how much is that is ending up in pockets. But I'd argue that that's part of the problem that the government, the U.S. government, has faced. They haven't done their job. They haven't provided as much transparency as possible and accountability to the American public. And so you lose the support of the American public, who had been just 2 years ago waving their fucking flags and putting Ukrainian flags on their Twitter sites and all the rest of that bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What do you think happens to Gaza, if you had a guess?
Look, this you can go back to the Romans, right? Putting down, a Jewish uprising in Judea, which is essentially Jerusalem area, right? West Bank, they call it the West Bank now, and Israelis still call it Judea. Do I think the problem's going to be solved? No. In the short term, will the conflict end? Yes.
But then what happens to all that area that's been destroyed?
They're going to have to rebuild it, right?
And who rebuilds?
Well, they've been trying to put together an Arab states coalition, right, of countries that would then be responsible for a couple of things: the rebuilding of the infrastructure and also security, right? Because again, no ceasefire, no permanent ceasefire is going to be accepted that allows Hamas to be the governing authority there, right? So the U.S. has been pushing very hard to have the Palestinian Authority, right, run by Mahmoud Abbas, who's been in charge of the Palestinian Authority for, 20 years now. And he's not popular in Gaza, right? They were kicked out. I mean, there's been a rift with the Palestinian groups, factions for some time. You go back to, when was the PLO? PLO was started in the early 70s, right? Yasser Arafat, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Looked a lot like Ringo Starr, and they were never photographed together. So I still think there's something there. I was going to investigate that on the next season of Black Files.
Small mustache.